Okay, thank you very much for coming today and attending our webinar today regarding visa options after your 45 visa about to expire. Um, just a bit about ourselves. My name is Anthony. I'm one of the associate at No Borders Law Group. Um, we we have been operating for about 27 years already. We offer a lot of service regarding migrations. We offer service not just for the 45 visa, but also for other visas such as business visa, family visa, parent visa, global talent visa, so on and so on. So if you have any visa inquiry, after this meeting, you're more than welcome to contact us, and then we will be happy to assist you further and hopefully can find a solution for you. Before I start the meeting, if you guys have any questions regarding the 45 visa or your visa options, or regarding what I mentioned in this meeting, you are more than welcome to send us questions, and then I will read through it later and answer your question accordingly. All right, so these are the main point of discussion today. We're gonna go through the challenges for the 45 visa holder. We're gonna discuss about the recent visa changes and its effect, explaining how the timing and the visa strategy is very essential for you to obtain permanent residency in Australia. Talking about the general requirement, realistic visa option for 45 visa holder, and what are the things you need to do to obtain permanent residency. And at the end of the webinar, as I mentioned, if you got questions, I will read through it later and answer your question as well. All right. So I assume most of you here are 45 visa holder, or you got friends or family that are holding the 45 visa option, 45 visa at the moment. Speaking of my own experience, I was also a 45 visa holder before, and speaking of my experience, it's very essential for you to know what you need to do next in order to obtain permanent residency. A lot of times people, okay, so 45 visa, it's not supposed to be a difficult visa. It's a visa designed for international students to stay here for another few years to obtain experience. That's the main goal of the visa. So the government, they created this visa, and they created this visa for that purpose, and it's not supposed to be difficult. However, if you want to extend your visa after your visa expiry date, a lot of the times, other visa application will be much more difficult than a 45 visa. For example, if you're just fully talking about 45 visa, the main thing you need to show is, first of all, you finish your study, which most of the time you already done it already. Secondly, you need to meet the English requirement, and you just need to do the police checks. Those are the three main things for you to do to get the 45 visa. Now, if you're talking about other visa application, mainly skill visa, for example, a lot of other things required. First of all, you need to prove you got work experience required for those applications. Depending on the application you're applying, you might not need experience. You might need 1 year experience, or you might need several years of experience. So it really depends on the type of visa application you're looking. So that's the first thing you need to be aware of. Second, it's about English. English. Most of the time, 45 visa holder usually meet the standard English requirement for all the visa application already. However, if you're looking for all the visa, like independent visa options, such as the 189, 190 visa, there'll be a different set of English requirement that you need to go through. Also, there will be other English tests available as well. What I meant is you can also explore things like translator tests. That will be very essential for you to obtain additional board for independent visa later on. So something you can also explore. The translator test is very difficult and also quite expensive as well. So it's worthwhile looking through it in advance before you do the test. If you fail the test, it's not gonna affect your visa situation, but as I said, it's very costly. So you need to make sure you study a few months in advance before you complete the test. Other things also you need to consider, for example, whether you got a partners, whether your partner is gonna affect your point, whether they're gonna affect your visa eligibility, or let's say if your partner got some medical conditions, is it worthwhile including them in your applications? And also, the most important thing is skill assessment. Skill assessment is pretty much required for all skill permanent visa options or for all skill permanent visa application. Whether you're talking about employer sponsored visa, whether you're talking about regional visa, whether you're talking about skill independent visa, skill assessment is always required. There's only certain type of visa that doesn't require skill assessment, but it takes a lot of time as well. So that's something you need to plan ahead if you want to obtain permanent residency here. Also, a lot of time I receive a lot of inquiries from people. Basically, they're waiting pretty much until the very last few months before they are looking into visa options, which is not something that I really recommend you to do. So a lot of time, skill set. First of all, you should, as I mentioned before, you should plan these things ahead of at least a year or two in advance, if possible. Maybe you don't meet the visa requirement at the time, but you can work on other stuff to make sure that you are ready to launch the vacation by the time your visa expired. What I meant is, for example, the skill assessment application depends on your occupation. It could take about 10 days. It could take 3 months, or some could take 7 to 9 months. So let's say your skill assessment take about 7 to 9 months. Even if you come to us about 3 to 4 months before your visa expiry, it's very difficult for us to do the application because by that time we literally have no time to get the skill assessment outcome, and meaning we cannot launch the visa application for you. If we launch the visa application for you, it just means the application will get refused, and it's just going to be a waste of time for you and waste of time for us, also your money as well. You also need to see whether your occupations is on the skill list. You need to, for example, let's say you are working as a chef, for example, but you need to distinguish the difference between chef and cook. Those occupations are different from each other. So if you're unsure, you probably should contact us, or maybe check with your employers whether they can help you distinguish the difference between chef and cook. Chef is usually more desirable to when you're talking about permanent residency. So if possible, we always recommend our clients to go with chef occupation instead of cook. A lot of for other occupation, for example, engineer, for example. Yes, you might be working as an engineer, but there's also certain other requirements that you need to be aware of as well. The main thing is most of the engineering in Australia, you need to have a license with the relevant engineering authority. And getting that license is not something easy to obtain. If that license is required when you apply for permanent residency for employer sponsor visa applications. So the license takes a few months to get, and sometimes even sometimes you don't even meet the requirement to get the license. So you need to plan a strategy. You need to discuss your employers whether they happy to support you to get the license. That's the first thing. In the event that you cannot get the license with the relevant authority, is there anyone in the office that already have the license that can supervise you? That's something you can discuss with them, and so that you can plan your strategy ahead. You also need to a lot of people as well. They okay. So when you're holding the 485 visa, you have full-time work, right? That's perfectly fine. You can work multiple jobs, but you need to be careful a little bit. Working multiple job doesn't mean you. So when you apply for the applications, they will look what you mentioned in the application needs to be accurate. What I meant is a lot of times when you work multiple job, for example, you got a side hustle like Uber Eats. Obviously, you have to pay tax as well, so it will be recorded in your ATO income statement, and the Department of Home Affairs, they have access to these informations. So sometimes people come to us, but they might be working full-time as a chef, for example, but they didn't tell us that they also working as a Uber driver on the weekend, things like that. So when we launch the applications, you need to disclose this to me, otherwise you might be subject to fraudulent informations, which will impact your visa application negatively. Worst case scenario, they can cancel your visa because you provide misleading informations. More importantly, you need to balance the number of hours between your main job and a side hustle. If you're working 20 hours as a, for example, as a marketing specialist, and then you working 30 hours as a Uber driver, for example, a lot of the time departments will have issue with it. They don't really believe you have experience as a marketing specialist. They will say, hey, it doesn't count. You spend most of the time working as an Uber driver. So the experience doesn't count. You can only work up to, we only care about the 30 hours. The number of hours you work beyond that, we don't care. And based on your tax records, you spend most of the time working as an Uber driver. So your experience as a marketing specialist doesn't really count, which personally speaking, I don't think that is correct. But if you don't want trouble, why bother going through it? So you need to plan this ahead just to avoid unnecessary conversation with the departments. Or worst case, they refuse the case, and you have to go to the tribunal and explain it to them, just so that you have the chance to overturn the decision in your favor. Okay, so not just the visa application requirement, but a lot of times the departments they change the visa application requirement the next day or on the weekend randomly if they want to. The most recent example is regarding the 407 visa. So most of the time, not most of the time, sorry, a lot of the times, people on the 485 visa, not everyone can apply for PR straight away. Not everyone can apply for permanent residency. So a lot of the times people go for the 407 visa, the training visa, as a way to extend their time in Australia. And by extending your time here, you can gain more work experience, and then you can get more work experience, and then you can hopefully apply for permanent residency in the futures. But recently, the government they changed the requirement for the 407 visa applications. Basically, before you can apply for 407 visa straight away. You just need your employers to launch their sponsorship and nomination applications for you, and then you can launch the visa application straight away. However, these days you need to have approval, sponsorship, and an approval nomination before you can launch the visa application. The sponsorship and nomination application for the training visa takes about 8 to 11 months to process. So it's not going to be quick process, and which basically means that training visa is not really practicable anymore if your visa about to expire in about 6 months. So what I'm trying to say is, even if you meet the visa requirement today, doesn't necessarily mean you meet the visa requirement next day. They can change the requirement pretty much anytime they want. So these are the things you need to be careful when you want to apply for permanent residency. Some other things you also need to be aware of. A lot of people also permanent residency. Most of the time you go for. A lot of people want to go for skill independent visa, which is the 189, 190, and the 491 visa. Those are the visa options that you're looking for. These visa, they have their specific criteria. The government, you can only apply for these visa when you receive the invitation from the government. The way the government invite you is based on a point test system. That's the first thing. The second thing is it really depends on your occupation. So a lot of times, even if you score 100 points, it doesn't guarantee you receive invitation. Chef and cooks, for example, it's on a skill list, but even when you score like 90, 95 points, there's no guarantee you receive invitations because it's not the occupation on a priority list for them. They would prefer saving those spots for people working in critical sectors, for example, nurse, doctor, teachers. Those are the occupations they're seeking the most at the moment, and usually they will reserve this spot for those people. The second thing is which state nominated visa, the 190 or the 491 visa. Each state have their own criteria. Obviously, I cannot go through all the requirements of each state at the moment, but basically, you need to check whether your occupation is actually needed in your state, for example. So just giving you an example, solicitor, last 2 years, it was on Queensland skill list, but this day, even if you got 100 points, the Queensland government, they never going to invite you because the occupation is no longer on the skill list in Queensland. So the same can be applied for a lot of other occupation as well. So you need to check whether your occupation is on that state skill list or not. That's the first thing. You also need to check each state requirement. Some state you can apply straight away. Some state require you to you have to work there and reside there for at least 6 to 9 months before you can be invited. So with the skill independent visa, a lot of things you have to consider. You need to probably what time contacting an expert and then ask whether you meet the requirement or not before you commit to the applications. Okay. So as I mentioned, what you're planning is very important. As the government, they can change the visa requirement anytime they want, as I mentioned. So it's very important for you to plan ahead. And when you are eligible to apply for the visa, you should consider doing it straight away, just to avoid them changing requirement the next day and you don't meet the visa requirement anymore. That's the first thing. The second thing is okay, so even if you don't meet the visa requirement at the time, for example, if you're talking about employer sponsor visa, permanent employer sponsor visa, most of the time you will need 3 years of working experience to apply for that visa. But there's also other requirement that you need to achieve before you can launch the visa. the main thing is skill assessment. As I mentioned before, the skill assessment usually takes a few months to prepare. And yes, while you are not able to meet the work experience requirement at the moment, but you can still apply. You can still apply for the skill assessment in advance. The skill assessment usually will be valid for 3 years. So if you do this in advance, you don't have to worry about skill assessment part anymore, and then you can just focus on getting experience, and then you can apply for the visa application later on once you meet the visa requirement. I saw someone want to send a message. Mao, can you help me with that? Okay, I'll get back to it later then. So going back to what I discussed. So even when you don't meet the visa require that particular visa requirement at that time, there's other things you need to prepare in advance as well before you can apply for the visa. And obviously, everyone say want to get permanent residency, but the reality is not everyone can achieve it in the first go. A lot of people will your visa will expire before you can apply for permanent residency. So you also need to file a plan B in case things that happen. If you've got a partners, you can consider doing a partner visa instead. Things like that. If your employers want to sponsor you, but you don't meet permanent residency requirement, you can consider doing the 482 application, the temporary employer sponsor visa. I mean, a skill in demand visa to give you more time. The training visa, the training visa as well, as I mentioned before, why it's not practical for people with less than 6 months on their current visa to apply. But if your visa expires in 12 months time, for example, that's something you can consider as well. You can do it in advance, and then the sponsorship nomination, as I mentioned, takes about 8 to 11 months. So you can launch those applications way before your visa expiry, and the cost for those applications is not that much, to be honest. It usually only costs the employers about $570 to launch the application to the government. So it's not a big expense to them. And if your visa about to expire in 12 months and you don't really have a plan B to extend your time here, that's something you can consider. You can launch those applications, and then hopefully the processing time is about 8 to 11 months, as I mentioned. By the time your visa about to expire, you can receive the approved nomination and sponsorship, and then you can still apply for the training visa. Or alternatively, if you meet the skill in demand visa requirement, you can also offer it. That's something you can plan in advance. Now, just a few things you need to be aware of. A lot of employer-sponsored visa applications, they say you need about 12-month experience or 36-month experience. Just to be clear, that work experience must be on a full-time basis. You can still work part-time, but if you work part-time, you need to prove you got 24 months of part-time experience, which is equivalent to 12 months of full-time experience, or 72 months of part-time experience, equivalent to 36 months of full-time experience. So when you discuss your visa option with us or someone else, you need to clarify to those people that your experience is whether it's part-time or full-time or not, because that can affect your visa eligibility. If you say you're working full-time, you need to make sure you got the pay slips ready. You need to make sure you got the tax documents ready. You need to make sure you got a contract, a reference letter from your employers to confirm it. Otherwise, it will be there will be a lot of issues. if you only work part-time but you claim full-time experience, you might not meet visa requirement. That's the first thing. But the worst thing is the government, they can accuse you of providing misleading information. That's something you never want to face. Right. And one thing I want to mention as well, a lot of employer-sponsored visa application, I know it's not something you want to rely on, but you definitely need to discuss it with your employers in case things don't go well for you when you're applying for skill independent visa. Employers, they might promise you to do this application, but they can go back to their own words. So try how can I say, if you got some sort of agreement with them regarding this stuff, that would be awesome. Or you can just tell them to submit the application as soon as possible. That will be very, very good for you. You have something to rely on. Never rely to don't base your whole strategy on your employers. You will always have to find a way to help yourself. Okay, there's also other things I want to mention to you as well. Sorry. Some people, they might be above the age requirement, or they don't meet the English requirement. Generally speaking, you need to be under 45 and you need to have at least competent English to apply for permanent visa. That's correct most of the time, but there are certain applications where you can work around this requirement. So if you got friends or family or yourself who are over 45, first of all, I probably recommend you contacting us so we can discuss more about your situations. But secondly, what you can do is you can tell them to go into certain area of Australia. For example, South Australia, Far North Queensland, Townsville, those areas, they have special program called labor agreement. Labor agreement applications. These labor agreement will allow you to get permanent residency even when you are over 45 and when you don't meet the English requirement. Sometimes as well, people don't meet the skill assessment requirement as well. So these programs allow you to work around these restrictions. You might not need a skill assessment anymore. And then you can still apply for permanent residency. So those are the things you need to be aware of. So when you're over 45, it's not the end of the world. And when you don't meet the English requirement, also it's not the end of the world as well. There's things to work around it, but you need to have a strategy to plan ahead. So as long as you stick to as long as you know what you're doing, there's always a way for you to stay here. But you need to plan these well in advance, because if you come to me like a month before your visa expiry date, yeah, I might have a strategy for you, but the times is not practical for me to do it. So these are the things you need to prepare well in advance. Okay, so as I mentioned, these are the things that can make or break your application. Skill assessment, English test, occupation is no longer on the skill list. These are the things you need to be aware of. Also, just something you need to be aware as well. Your occupation might be available under the employer-sponsored visa program at the moment, but they can change the occupation again in the near futures. So occupations such as, for example, cook chef, for example, they might be in the program at the moment, but they might be replaced in the futures. This can be seen, for example, with restaurant manager's occupation. Previously, you can be sponsored as a restaurant manager under the previous skilled employer sponsor visa program. But 1 or 2 years ago, they changed the occupation list, and now restaurant managers, you can only sponsor restaurant managers if you're in regional area. So yes, even you will take all the box and your visa about to expire in a year's time, also is still a good idea to consider doing the application just in case they change the occupation list again and you no longer meet the visa. You can no longer apply for the visa under the occupations. So it's something you need to be aware of. So how to position yourself with limited times? So a lot of people they came to us when the visa about to expire in maybe 2 or 3 months. So it's very in those circumstances, it's not really practical for me to explain your PR options. What I'm trying to do in that case, we try to find a way for you to stay here. Permanent residency, yes, that's something we can discuss, but it should be later on. Your visa is about to expire in 2 or 3 months. You need to focus on finding a way to stay here. So each people will have their own story. So I might be able to come with solution for you. I might not be able to come with solution for you. It really depends, but as I mentioned, the sooner you think about these things, the better. Even when you got the visa options, you still need to make sure you got the evidence to back it up. I can only prepare the application for you based on the information you provided to me. If you have no payslip evidence or no tax documents, it's very difficult for me to do the applications. The department's going to question about it. I can try my best to extend the time for you, buy you time. But at the end of the day, I can only buy you a few months' time. Eventually, the department's going to be fed up. And if you are unable to provide the documents, they will unfortunately refuse your visa. So it's very important for you to prepare these things in advance. And even when your visa about to expire, as you aware, um, not everyone have an employer that happy to sponsor them. Not everyone have a partner that happy to do partner visa for them. Not everyone have a parent that happy to do child visa for them. You can what you can, but that's not to mean that there's not a way for you to stay here. As you're aware, you might not be able to apply for student visa while you're holding a 45 visa, but there is a way to work around it. You can go overseas and then you can still apply for student visa when you're offshore, and you can still return to Australia while holding the 45 visa. That's something you can do. But with that student visa, it needs to be done very carefully. Student visa application, they got a change in student requirement. You can launch a student visa, doesn't mean they have the application to grant you the visa. You still have to prove that you are a genuine student. And when you're holding the 45 visa and student visa before, it's a very difficult things to convince the department. But it's not impossible. It's not impossible. You can still do it if you got a strategy, and even if your visa got refused, if you got granted, happy day, you can still stay here. If you got refused, there might be some things out that we can explore for you. Maybe that's just a part of a strategy for you to stay here longer. So there's things to work around it. So when your visa expires and your employer doesn't want to sponsor you and your skill independent visa doesn't go well, there's still things that you can think about. Uh, some people as well, they from certain country, they can apply for working holiday visa, or something you can also explore as well. But yeah, as I mentioned, you are more than welcome to contact us later on if you got question regarding your visa. Okay, so this is just a brief introduction about employer sponsor visa. Um, as a So sponsorship is just not about finding an employer that wants to sponsor you. Yes, I got a lot of employers that contact me and they want to sponsor their employee as well. But the reality is the job that they want to sponsor is not on the skill list. That's the first thing. Second thing is even if it's on the skill list, the occupation, I mean the nominee, the visa applicant, they don't have the required qualification or the experience required to apply for the visa. And sometimes they want to sponsor these people, but they are unable to unable to meet the salary requirement to apply for the visa, or they don't have the financial capacity to be a sponsor. So there's a lot of things involved. Yes, you might be able to find employer, but it's also their job as well to meet the requirement from the government side. So when you want to explore employer sponsored visa, it's always worthwhile to have your employer sit next to you when we discuss about these applications, because we need to make sure that they also meet the requirement. Or otherwise, it's going to be a waste of time for you and waste time money for you, your employers, and us as well. It's not going to be successful if the employer doesn't meet their own requirement. Okay. As I mentioned before, you need to make sure the most important thing is you need to make sure that the employment you claim is related to the occupation that you want to apply. If you're working as a marketing specialist, you need to make sure that you got all documents related to marketing specialist. You need to get your employers to sign a reference letter. You need to get a payslip to confirm it. Make sure you got the employment contract ready. You got qualification relevant to the occupation. That's even better. That's even better. But make sure you got everything these things sorted out first before you apply for this visa. Skill assessment. Okay, skill assessment, as I mentioned before, is very important, especially when you're talking about permanent residency. Temporary visa as well. There's some certain temporary visa require you to have skill assessment as well. But certainly, most of the employers, most of the permanent visa, you need to get a skill assessment. Whether you're talking about the 189, 190, 491, 186, those visa, you need to have a skill assessment before you can go ahead. And skill assessment, as I mentioned, depends on your occupation. Some could take 10 days, some could take 3 months, some could take even 7 to 9 months. So it's always good to have these ready as soon as possible before you think about permanent residency. Okay, so these are the short table for you to so you know what sort of visa, what sort of skill visa you can consider after before your 45 visa expire. The main things, the main visa that you should be looking at is the employer sponsor visa and the skill independent visa. Each visa have this a different set of requirement. If you want to have small specific advice to your circumstances, probably worthwhile booking consultation with us so that we can talk to you more about your specific circumstances. Also, as I mentioned before, even when your visa about to expire, there's maybe way for us to give you a little bit more time by applying for certain visa and give you additional time to meet the application requirement. So it's also a way. So there's way to work around the visa requirement that we can explore with you later on. All right, thank you very much, you guys, for attending the webinar tonight. Hopefully it's a helpful conversation for everyone here. Hopefully I can give you some sort of guidance for you to get permanent residency in the near futures. I got a question from Jolo. I'll answer to you, but if there's anyone else have a question as well, feel free to put in a chat box. Okay. So Jolo, this is a question from Jolo. You are holding a student. I'm sorry. You extend your student visa, but got refused, meaning you are no longer eligible for the 485 visa. Your partner is a student visa holder, right? And she will be finishing her study soon. To answer your question, whether you can apply for the 485 visa or not, yes, but it requires a lot of things. First of all, you won't be included in her initial applications. Initial application. I don't know whether you have appealed your student visa or not. If you haven't, please do so, because it will allow you to stay here until your partner visa got granted. That's the first thing. When your partner's 485 visa got granted, what you can do is you can request for a bridging visa B and apply for a bridging visa B, and so you can go overseas. When you are overseas, you can now apply for the 485 visa offshore. 485 visa, you cannot apply when you got a visa refusal in Australia, but you can still apply when you are offshore. The reason why you cannot apply initially is even if you're offshore at the time your partner lodged the case, you are unable to lodge it because of the 485 visa requirement. 485 visa requirement at the time of lodgement, both if you want to include your partners, both you and your partner must be in Australia at the same time. And as I mentioned, you cannot lodge the 485 visa while you got a student visa refusal. So what you can do is, as I mentioned, get your partners to do her 485 visa first. And then once this got granted, you request for travel right, go offshore, lodge the 485 visa. You can still come back here on the bridging visa B that you got granted earlier. And that's how you work around the requirement. If you would like further discussion regarding this, more than happy to schedule a consultation with us. I'm happy to explain to you again in our meeting later on. But as to answer your question, yes, you can. There's a way to work around it, and there's a way for you to still stay here, apply for 485 visa. All right. So I'll just give it another minute before I end the meeting. If you got anyone else got a question, more than happy to send it to us. Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your time today. I'm looking forward to hearing back from you again in the near future. If you got question, any question regarding your visa situations? Thank you very much.